Welcome to the official Lost podcast. While it's been a few weeks since our last new podcast, for the cast and crew of Lost, it's been no vacation, because now we're moving into the final stretch of Season 2. That's right, the next 3 weeks are all new episodes leading up to the 2-hour season finale. All I can say is woohoo, or yippee, or whatever show of excitement you prefer. In any case, in this podcast, we are once again joined by executive producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse. Though haggard from their last-minute sprint to the finish line, producing a stunning season finale, they took time out to sit down and once again take your questions. They'll also be shedding some light on the upcoming episode 2 for the Road, which airs Wednesday, May 3rd from 9 to 10 p.m. on ABC, and maybe even waxing nostalgic on the last episode, S.O.S. First up, though, we have an exclusive interview with actor Josh Holloway.
The hell you think you're doing?
You stole these from the hatch.
You stole them from me.
What?
They were in my stash when I left. I just took back what was mine.
These belong to all of us, Sawyer, to the group. If you don't have a stash anymore...
Seriously, Doc, you don't want to do this. Just give me the pills. We'll forget it ever happened.
Are you threatening me?
Last chance, Doc.
Recently, Sawyer once again became one of the most hated characters on the island, all thanks to cute little tree frog. And it's not just his fellow castaways that have been hating on him. Everyone's getting in on the act, most notably the Royal Institution's Battalion for Indigenous Tree Frogs, or Ribbit for short. However, as actor Josh Holloway reveals, Sawyer's return to his roots didn't surprise him.
It was shocking that it made me nervous because suddenly, Sawyer was actually getting along. The scenes were kind of comedic. He was getting to, still being his smart-ass kind of isolated self, but coexisting with the group a bit. And, of course, that felt kind of comfortable. And then when I got that script, I was like, okay, he's back. And what would make him do that? So I had to find that in me. Okay, what would make me do that to these people? And it really was just a reactionary, I think, kind of thing, showing them again, hey, I'm not dead, and don't forget I'm still around.
Oh, you want to torture me, don't you? Show everybody how civilized you are. Go ahead. But I'll die before I give them back. And then you'll really be screwed, won't you?
What did surprise Josh was which scene would be the most difficult to shoot.
The one that I thought would be the most difficult, and the one that I really was worried about, and the execution of, was, of course, when I come out and I tell them I have the guns, and there's a new sheriff in town, because I'm facing all of my peers, who I respect immensely, and all of these actors, and I have to own the situation pretty much. So that, of course, was challenging and exciting, and turned out to be really easy. But what was most difficult was more of the stuff with the when I come in and tell her that I'm a con man and I rush her out the door. That scene was like grueling, because it was like a big, long, quick dance. I had to go here, turn her, da-da-da, do this whole thing. It was just all one big kind of violent dance, and she was supposed to slap me, and she wasn't actually hitting me, and the scene was dropped. So I'm like, hit me. So after about 26 hits, I was like, oh my
Did I
God,
really say
what
that?
am I thinking? Right? So that scene was grueling.
Of course, as mentioned before, the seminal moment for Sawyer hating this season came when his character crushed an innocent, if annoying, tree frog.
Why don't I take him? Far from here. 2 beaches away. Maybe I'll find a Mrs. Tree Frog. That way it won't keep you up anymore and everyone's happy.
Yeah, that's one idea. Here's another.
Dude.
Here with a little ranch, they taste just like chicken.
Oh, God, the hate mail's pouring in. I'm an animal killer. It's official. The Buddhists hate me. Hey, come on. We eat that in the South. That's sustenance, is it not? But, no. It was funny because there again he has to do something mean and but find a reason for him somehow. So I was like, well, I guess Jorge kind of busted him being all sensitive to the frog, so he had to, like, finish the job. But it was fun. That was a fun thing to do because that was a real frog. They bring this frog out and they're like, this is an Amazonian poison dart frog. And I'm like, oh, really? You mean the kind they dip the tip in, before they kill something? And they're like, oh, yeah. So I'm like, and I'm handling the poison dart frog? And they're like, well, we raised it here, so its diet is different than it is in the Amazon, so it doesn't create the same chemicals that make that potent, deadly venom that secretes from it. So they said it makes some venom, but it's not anything what it does. So I put this derma stuff on my hands, and I hold the frog, but I could still feel a little tingle.
As Josh was quick to point out, it was all in the name of verisimilitude. In other words, you have to suffer for your art. The frog certainly did. Speaking of suffering, it's time once again to turn over the podcast to executive producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse. And no, the frog wasn't actually hurt.
Good morning, Damon.
Hi, Carlton.
How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Well, welcome to another podcast. We're glad to be back with you. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about rehashing S.O.S. We'll talk a little bit about Two for the Road, and then we'll get to your questions.
Why do they call it rehashing?
Well, because it's not hashing. You're rehashing.
But do you ever say, let's hash this?
Yeah.
Like, let's hash this out.
I say that all the time. I say, let's go hash something out. Let's go hash out the story for S.O.S.
But we've never hashed it before. I mean, it's like...
Well, it didn't just come into being all by itself, did it?
All right, so if we're going to rehash S.O.S., then we should hash Two for the Road.
All right, well, then we'll hash Two for the Road. But in essence, we're sort of fake hashing because we had to hash it when we actually wrote it.
Why isn't it called pre-hashing?
Well, pre-hashing would be the idea of coming up with the episode. Then you hash the episode out. Then you rehash it after you've hashed it.
And when do we do the post-hash? Is that next week?
That'll be next week.
Okay.
We'll post-hash.
Got it.
So this is actually probably more of a post-hash, isn't it, on S.O.S.? Because
we haven't hashed it before. That's why when you rehash something, you're hashing
true.
For the second time.
We've never had... This is the first time we will have ever post-hashed or rehashed S.O.S. Ever.
Okay, so let's just hash it.
Okay.
S.O.S.
So...
Rose and Bernard.
Why did they finally get a flashback, Damon?
Well, that's a flashback that was long overdue. We feel, one of the things on the show that we often talk about and want to do is bring up members of the chorus, and the idea that there are these other people on the island other than sort of our main group, and Rose and Bernard are sort of the more prominent members of that sort of community of other people, and we brought them back together from different sides of the island, and people were really curious and interested in what their backstory was, and we had always sort of talked about at least who Rose was and how she and Bernard met, and
I think let's just cut to the chase. I mean, people think Bernard is hot, and they wanted to see more of him.
That's true.
That was basically the bottom line. People came up and said, "Man, Bernard is a hottie. Let's find out what his story is."
We always hear there's not enough romance on the island and not enough people making out, and we said, "Well, I know who I want to see making out."
Oh my God! On the DVD, there is a love scene with Rose and Bernard. That,
it was too hot for TV.
It was way too hot for TV. They won't even show it in Scandinavia. It's that hot.
We'll be rehashing that one for years to come.
Exactly, with some Hungarian Rhapsody music. It's
all right,
fantastic.
let's do some rehatching, which is let's talk about Locke leaving the hatch. Will we see his crisis of faith come to a head?
I think we will. I mean, I think Locke has really had his world kind of, kind of flipped upside down. I mean, he doesn't really know what to believe at this point, does he?
What's up with him? What is he drawing on that piece of paper?
Well, in just going back to post-hash, the rehash of Lockdown.
I have to be honest with you. All of this is very confusing to me because all the reruns and all that stuff.
Oh my God, the reruns. By the way, we're out of that now. By the time you
that's
get
right.
to this
We're
podcast,
into new episodes all the way home now.
5 new hours all the way home. No more repeats. No more clip shows. No more preemptions. You got 4 weeks, all new episodes with a 2-hour season finale.
All lost all the time.
Which we are shooting as we speak.
Very exciting.
It's tough to actually shoot it while doing the podcast.
So I interrupted. You were talking about the lockdown, and I assume getting to the map.
Yeah, there was a big map on the back of the door,
right.
And Locke, in the center of the map, there was a question mark, and that question mark was, obviously whoever drew the map was unclear as to what any details of this particular hatch were.
Well, you're never going to tell us who drew the map, though, so why even bother getting invested in it? I mean,
then forget it. Why not? Then just watch Criminal Minds. Forget it.
All right. Well, if you're going to be like that, let's talk about 2 for the Road, which is
I like this episode.
Let's pre-hash it.
That.
This is a good one. This is the first new episode in a while, and whose flashbacks is it, Carlton?
It would be Ana Lucia's flashbacks.
Good old Ana Lucia.
Yes.
Well, she's a really sort of, misunderstood character on the show. Are these flashbacks going to shed some more light on who she is and why she came to Australia, perhaps?
By the way, how do you shed light? I mean, speaking about hashing and rehashing, where does shedding light come? I mean, how would be telling us more details about Ana Lucia be in any way shedding light?
Shedding light is a term that was actually sort of originated back in the original colonial settling days, in which there'd be these sheds outside people's houses, somewhere where they kept their tools between their outhouse and the main house. And what would happen is you would actually open up the door of the main house for the light, which was candlelight, to illuminate your way to the outhouse. And what would happen is that residual light would spill out onto your shed. So that is where the term came from.
Wow. That is fantastic.
Isn't
I don't
it
even know
amazing
why,
how
I
I
don't
knew
know why I
that?
bothered to go to college. I should have just gone over to your house and hung out.
All you really have to do is watch Jeopardy.
That's true. I feel that.
But now that we've dealt with that,
okay.
So Ana Lucia,
Lucia.
we're gonna find out why she went to Australia.
Yes,
that should be very interesting.
That should be very cool, and maybe a few more details about her career in the LAPD.
I saw in the promo for the coming attractions this week that she's got a gun and she's pointing it at Henry Gale. So what's going to happen there?
I think she's not too happy with Henry Gale.
Yeah, he's been sort of a thorn in the collective side of our people, and maybe it's time to do something about it.
And the others, kind of got off on the wrong foot with her shooting Shannon, and that is something that she blames pretty much on the others.
She's also killed a couple of the others herself. She hit that woman with a rock, and she killed Goodwin.
Yeah, on that spear, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. So maybe she's not as misunderstood as we seem
No,
to
maybe
think
in fact she really is. Maybe she's just a badass.
Maybe she is.
Yeah.
All right, moving
okay.
on. So we have some questions. Our favorite part of the adventure here.
Let's hash through some questions today, Damon.
Yeah. Okay, Carlton. Let's
Hey, can I ask you a question, Damon?
I really wish you would.
Pod question about the French woman. It seems weird that she was on the island for 16 years. This is by I Love Lost 2.
Okay.
Which we like. That's a good name.
I thought it was much better than I Love Lost 1. A very rare instance of the sequel being better than the original.
It's definitely true, and I can't wait for I Love Lost 3.
It's a trilogy.
She was on the island for 16 years and has never seen another or found the hatch. I mean, how to explain this? The Lost people have been on there for about 30 days, and they've seen others and found 2 hatches.
Well, I guess it's all relative in terms of, A, where Rousseau has been sort of holing up, and B, more importantly, whether or not she's telling the truth.
Oh my God, she could be lying.
She could be lying,
or she could be a nut. Couldn't she be a nutter?
I would say that it's safe to say that her history on the island would lean towards some degree of instability. With this baby stealing and the fire burning.
What did she really meant when she said, "That 43 of you, where will you hide them?"
Where will you hide them?
What was that all about?
I don't know. But it's one of the mysteries that we ourselves don't know the answers to.
There's a certain Yugoslavian cast to her French also. That's
there is.
Very, that's another mystery that.
She does speak fluent French,
yes.
but they only call her the French woman because she speaks French. But
right,
and her name is Rousseau, which is sort of a traditionally French name.
Yes,
but that doesn't mean wouldn't that be great if her secret was that she wasn't really French at all?
That's true. Is there going to be more about the French woman this year?
I think that we will probably not be seeing Rousseau anymore this year, but that doesn't mean that she isn't out there.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we won't be seeing more about her story, and I'll just sort of leave it at that.
Yes, I think that'd be a good place to leave it.
I'm going to leave it right there,
okay.
But then I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
In fact, it's a sudden pregnancy question by Mana Meyer. Hey, Damon and Carlton. Just started listening to your podcasts and been enjoying them a lot. Hey, I thought of something that might support the theory that Carlton is in Damon's mind. There's no way that Carlton would ever let Damon go first in the introductions. So there you have it, guys. Anyway, here's my question.
Oh, man.
Well, it's true, Carlton. In the montage at the end of S.O.S. last week, Sun and Jin were in their tent. Jin was caressing Sun's pregnant tum-tum. Her words, not mine. And Sun was looking away. That made me think that perhaps the baby isn't his. Is there any credence to that theory, my friends? I know you're not my friends. I'm just being polite.
Well, we actually are your friends, and if you have any trouble,
you're obviously Carlton's friend.
Yes. Well, Damon doesn't exist, so you can't really be his friend.
That's true. But if I didn't exist, then I'm sort of going first and second in the introductions.
Yeah, he's throwing,
Let's not get into this again.
The
rehashing was enough.
Exactly. I think looking away while rubbing someone's stomach has many different cultural implications.
In fact, Carlton's doing it right now. Try doing it, tapping the top of your head, looking away, and rubbing your stomach all at the same time while making a cultural implication.
But no, seriously, the mystery of who impregnated Sun it's a good thing to be asking questions about, and I think it's something that in year 3 of the show we will definitely be dealing with more. If it's
even a baby in the first place.
That's true.
Maybe it's not. It is.
Well, maybe.
But if it's not, what would it be?
Okay. All right.
Going on.
Okay. All right. So, a little haha. Read this and tell me what you know, Damon. By Lost SB.
Okay.
Maybe that's Lost Santa Barbara.
I hope so.
Okay. So in the beginning, when the Losties first found out about the others were those monsters and smoke creatures and all the loud noises. But now the others are the people who have Michael and Walt. I'm confused.
I'm confused too.
I'm
not entirely sure. Yeah, they're black smoke, all right. I'm not entirely sure that the Losties ever referred to the monster as anything other than the monster or the creature or the thing out in the jungle.
Right.
There's been some whispering that's been attributed to the others.
Right.
And there have been the others, who, as soon as we introduced Ethan fairly early in season 1, we've known that they were people who may or may not have a relationship with the thing that looks like black smoke and moves around in the trees. But,
right.
They are two separate but equal entities.
Exactly. Well, thank you. That was a good answer.
I just don't want to discriminate.
Thank you.
I got one more question for you, Carlton, and then I think it's time to go hash somewhere. Food on the Island. This is by Mr. Echo the Hulk.
Oh, fantastic. That
Carlton,
might be a combination of our show and your comic book.
Is there any significance to the type of food Dharma is dropping for their stations? Whenever we see a food label for the Dharma food, it is something of junk food or kids' food. Examples: chocolate cream cookies, most obviously Oreos, fish crackers, peanut butter, ranch, candy, macaroni and cheese. Why does the Dharma menu seem like the kids' menu at a restaurant? Did the Losties actually stumble on a random resort and the Swan Station is actually the kids' club?
Wow, that is the greatest question ever.
That's why I chose to ask it.
It's fantastic. I think that the Dharma initiative, I think it's fair to say that they aren't really up on all the current nutritional trends, and that Whether that became a factor in the demise of the Dharma Initiative or not, well, that's something that maybe we should be exploring in Season 3, the nutritional demise of the Dharma Initiative.
My guess, for what it's worth, is that although we've seen some of the junkier foods that the Dharma Initiative supplies, that that's comfort food. I mean, if you're going to be down there pushing a button every 108 minutes, they might as well give you cookies.
Besides, Sawyer has probably hoarded all the canned porterhouse steaks and shrimp scampi.
That would be delicious.
And the fresh canned vegetables.
There's peas and stuff, but who wants to see people eating peas?
Yeah, and you can't really if someone's going to be casually snacking, they're not going to be opening up a container of canned lima beans.
That is like the most profound thing you've ever said on a podcast. All right,
So.
We're not going to top that one.
Oh, we are. Wait, don't I have one more for you before we go?
I guess.
Oh, come on. Okay,
Go
this
for
is
it.
this is a real simple one.
Please. Can I answer it before you ask it?
Yes.
4
Okay.
is my answer.
All right. It sure looked like Libby in the background of the restaurant scene where Rose and Bernard. It's hard to tell since she was dressed up, but it was obvious the show wanted you to notice her since nothing else stood out in the background of the rest of that scene, except for maybe Niagara Falls. But hey, whatever. Has anyone confirmed this? Will you confirm, was that Libby in that restaurant in Buffalo or Niagara Falls?
I will do what is actually the opposite of confirm, and I will deny it. In fact, that is not Libby. It is absolutely not Libby. I don't know who it is. This actually brings up an interesting thing that was brought to our attention. Apparently, there was a janitor in the Numbers episode of screwing in a light bulb last year.
Right.
In Hurley's flashback,
Hurley
who bears...
Saying, don't do that. Get off that ladder.
And he bears like a striking resemblance to Michael Emerson, who plays Henry Gale. So the fan community thought, oh, that's Henry Gale changing the light bulb as a janitor in a mental institution.
Right.
And again, we will go and say, no, that's a different actor, and we are going to officially deny that. We're barking up the wrong tree.
An unofficial cross.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, I think that was good today, Damon.
I feel really good about it.
I learned something really good. You shed some light on a subject that I knew nothing about, and that was really helpful for me.
I made up that thing about the shed.
No.
Could you tell? I know it's. But I was telling the truth about Libby not being in Bernard, and when am I telling the truth and when am I lying? That's the. But it sounds like a good reason for why that phrase would exist.
It does. I would buy it if I was on one of those, like NPR shows.
Yeah, wait, don't tell me.
Yeah.
Don't go listen to their podcast.
No.
Because they're not talking about interesting things at all.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
That wraps up this podcast. Next week, we'll return with more podcast goodness as Damon and Carlton prehash, rehash, and posthash this week's episode. Remember, we're always looking for a few good fan questions. Just go to lost.abc.com. Two for the Road airs Wednesday, May 3rd from 9 to 10 p.m. only on ABC.